Well, one of the big news stories dominating headlines in recent weeks is the Competition Commission fining 15 construction companies for collusion. Joining us now to discuss the impact on the stocks in the aftermath of all of the fines being levied is David Shapiro from Sasfin. Dave, you know the construction industry well. So, I was looking at various of the stocks. It's interesting to see the differences between the performances in the past year. When you looked at the fines relative to the individual companies, are there any that you were worried about? Perhaps Stefanuti stocks would be one to begin with.
Of course. I mean, Alec, they were huge fines in the region of 300 million rand. But I don't think those will collapse the companies. I think what's collapsed the companies, or what the biggest worry is reputational risk. No one knows who sat round the table and what they said as they divvied up those various construction contracts. And I think this is going to be harder to overcome, more so than the actual financial damage. And I still think we're battling with it. There are a lot of issues against the construction company as we talk now. I know they've had a good run up to now, but that seems
as
to be
investments.
As an investment. But I think that I've said openly, I think we need a Truth and Reconciliation Committee, to actually find out what happened and what the Competition Commission found, that can help restore confidence in these construction companies. And we know a lot of these people. I've been with you for a long time. They sat around the tables as we interviewed them, and you had a lot of faith in their abilities. And yet we're now questioning, hold on a sec, what did you do? How did you conduct yourself, or how did the people underneath you conduct yourself?
David, is that too much risk for you to go into the market now? I mean, we were talking yesterday, I think it was, or 2 days ago, to Bernie Crone, and we're talking about a CODESA, which was initiated by Ketso Gordon, the CEO of PPC, where everyone gets around the table together. And it's almost as though it's a wrong thing to do, because if they all get around the table together, it's almost as though the investment community will say, well, are you colluding again? Is it too risky for you?
I think that's exactly what happened. It's going to take time. It's going to take a long time for us to forgive. I think management's going to have to change. Lindsay, against that as well, you've got conditions in the South African market as well. There's no hint of spend taking place. It's very patchy. You might find an Esau Frankie or Wilson Bailey might have a certain contract, but it's not happening consistently, and that's what PPC are saying. They're quite concerned about the non-spend. We've got all the projects, but there's no spend. The other issue that we haven't discussed is Australia. So many of our companies have got big contracts in Australia, and as we know, Australia is coming under a lot of pressure as China stops its, as China slows down, and the commodity boom there also starts to slow down as well. So I think there are worries about the Australian economy. So I think a lot hanging over the industry.
All right, I've got to give you the other point of view. 55 contracts out of 30,000 were crook. 55 out of 30,000.
Right.
You can't call this an industry that colludes. Come on, Dave. If they were colluding, then it would have been like 1,000 or 10,000.
I know. But which contracts were they? Were they the big ones, or were they the small ones? Was it the Durban Stadium, or was it the Cape Town Stadium, or was it...
Certainly my investigation says it's a lot of small ones. In fact, in some of the cases, the fines levied were bigger than the value of the entire contract. But I see what you mean. You need that. We
need that to be exposed. When that's exposed, we can say, okay, this is nothing. How many heads did we see roll because of the Competition Commission inquiry into food? And people who might not have been involved in it had to step down. So I think we need more detail.
But they didn't step down.
No.
Heinekom, is it, at Pioneer Foods? He's still happy. He's
Dennis,
still number one.
Yeah.
Nick Dennis.
Nick fell on the sword.
But he was. Well, let's not say honourable, but you know where we're going. Dave, just if you were to take a view that these next round of discussions, 16th to 17th of July next week, are going to just calm the waters a little, because there is now some perspective coming into all the hysteria. Is there any stock in the construction sector that appeals to you?
Not at the moment, mainly for the Australian side of it. I'd like to give it a little bit of time. They're well-run companies. I disagree with views that they're not well run. Because I don't know if you listen to Paul O'Flaherty on Eskom, saying that the construction company's got to look at their workers and so on. I disagree with him, and he came from a construction company. I think that they can stand, they can hold their heads up high. What I'm worried about is more the actual spend that's taking place, and we need consistency, and we need to know that that's being done.
Well, David Shapiro.